Welcome viewers! Today I'm returning to the topic of my own sandbox. Again, we will install SAP on a cheap MiniPC. I will try to make it clear and interesting. You may remember that some time ago I presented a step-by-step installation of S/4HANA-like sandbox. Of course, it's not a full S4 because it doesn't include business logic, but it's very useful for developers and basis administrators, for learning and experimenting. Simply as a home lab. ABAP Platform Trial, as that was the name of that product, was based on the same engine as S/4HANA 1909. This time we will look at something newer, specifically version 2022. Although it is a direct successor to the previous product, this time it is called ABAP Cloud Developer Trial 2022. Yes, SAP loves to rename products. The previous video covered full step-by-step instructions, including even downloading and installing Linux on a $130 MiniPC. This time I will focus on migrating from the previous version to Cloud Developer Trial. So if you're interested in the full Linux installation process and a performance test of the system on a very cheap PC, you can start with the previous video. Let's start by finding our test SAP system. For this, I visit Docker Hub because the Cloud Developer Trial is distributed as a Docker container image. The developer is SAP SE, so I search for images from this creator. Third on the list is ABAP Cloud Developer Trial. Let's see what's inside. Here we have quite an extensive and interesting document about this product. Let's start with the requirements. The news here is rather sad. While the product still requires 16 GB of RAM to run, it is highly recommended to have 32 GB of memory, as the operating system also occupies some. And while in the case of the 1909 version everything worked without any problems with 16 GB, this time you actually need a bit more. But I'll come back to memory expansion in a moment. Let's see what else is in this document. An important section is how to create a Docker container. Here is the command that starts the container. It is worth noting the increase in the container stopping timeout. After all, SAP and HANA do not stop instantly. Then we have sections about troubleshooting and restarting container. Important part is always how to update the licenses, but we have a separate video about this on the channel. Next is one of the most important pieces of information: connectivity. Here is a list of ports that should be exposed by the container. This is not a complete list, but we will come back to this. More interesting in my opinion is the proposal just below. Instead of exposing individual ports, you can run the network in host mode. Then, from the network point of view, the container acts like an application, and we don't worry about port exposing at all. Configuring SAP logon is the rather boring part. Much more important is the information about passwords. Here is the password used in version 1909. However, as you can see, it is different in the latest release. It's worth saving it, as I'll be using it several times in this video. Then we have a section on connection through the browser. This is important for Fiori. Next, a few words about Cloud Connector. You can find a separate video on connecting Sandbox to the BTP platform on this channel. Further additional information and known problems. But let's move on to action. First, I want to secure the configuration from my existing sandbox. I log in to the system. As you can see, I logged in without a password, thanks to the SSO configuration. I would like to transfer this configuration to the new system. To do this, I will save the PSE container on my computer. I can do this in strust transaction. An important PSE is SNCSAP cryptolib. This is the subject of my system's certificate used with SSO. I could try to simply export the certificate using this option, but this is not enough. The PSE also contains the private key and trust list. That's why I go into edit mode and then choose Save from the PSE menu. Now I'm choosing File to export the PSE. Let's save this in Downloads folder of my computer. I can name this simply my SAPSNC. I need to click Allow and this is saved. I won't move users between systems because the sandbox is used only by me. All I'll do is save my SNC string to Notepad. This is my user. In SNC tab, I can find the string. I'm copying it. I'm opening Notepad application. Pasted. Let's save this in downloads as my snc.txt. Saved. I'll close this as it is not needed now. I can also log out because this is all what I need from SAP, at least from GUI. My PSE is one part of SNC setup. The rest is driven by profile parameters. Therefore, I will now want to secure the system's profile files. I could do this using RZ10 transaction, but I will show another method. I'm logged to my MiniPC where ABAP Platform Trial is running. Here is the container. I will use the container name to copy files from my container to the TMP directory on my MiniPC. The docker cp command is helpful here. First I specify container, then path to file or directory. Finally destination, which is /tmp in my case. The whole folder has been just copied. I see that there are 3 profile files in TMP. So I already have everything I need. Before I begin the installation of ABAP Cloud Developer Trial 2022, I'll do some more cleanup. I'll stop my container using the docker stop command. Now I can focus on my target machine. This too will be a low-cost MiniPC. I bought it recently for $120. It is a Firebat AK2 Plus with 16 GB of memory and a 512 GB SSD. I will expand the memory to 32 GB. I bought this SODIMM module for around $60, so almost half of the MiniPC price. And this is Firebat AK2 Plus itself. Opening the lid is very easy and requires no tools. Under the cover is a tray for an additional 2.5-inch SATA drive. I unscrew 3 screws. Then I have access to 16 GB module which can be easily removed and replaced with a new one. That's it. Memory upgrade to 32 GB is done. The last step is to check if the memory is recognized correctly. So I turn on the MiniPC and log into the system. The free command shows that the system actually has 32 GB of memory. As you can see, the system is already installed. It is Debian 12. On the other hand, I do not have the necessary software to run the container. So I'll start by installing Docker. I search for the installation method for my operating system. Here is the official website. I prefer installation by adding repository. Here are the commands to add repository to my system. And here is the command to install Docker when repository is configured. I'll start with the part of command which adds signing keys to my key ring to authorize future software updates. I'm pasting the commands. I need to authenticate myself due to required authorization elevation. This system has not been used for a while, so it may need some updates. And done. Now let's check the second part of the command list. This part adds the repository and gets updated list of packets. I paste the commands into the terminal again. Added and updated. Let's check the final step. This command is already very clear and transparent. It installs not so long list of packages from the system repositories. I confirm that I want to install 11 packages that will take up a total of more than 400 megabytes of disk space. That's not that much these days. Done. Let's test Docker command. This is not a big problem. I can add my user to the Docker group, which should help. But you need to know one thing. The current session is not aware that I am added to the group. Docker is not on the list, but just starting a new session will change that. Now I am a member of the Docker group. As expected, command is successful, but no container is running. But finally, I have everything to start download and run my container. I must check a command which is required to pull SAP Docker image. Here it is. But the tag name information is missing, and in this case, the default value of latest doesn't work. Let's try to find tags. Here it is, ABAP Trial 2022. I see also full command to pull the image. I'm copying it to my clipboard. And pasted. Now the installation will take some time. I have a pretty fast connection, but downloading and unpacking takes time. In order not to bore viewers to death, I will speed up the video. Thanks to the magic of cinema, finished. The image has been downloaded. Let's check the documentation on how to make a working container from the image. Here is the command, docker run. It's not perfect, but let's copy this. A few things need to be corrected before I can run it. First of all, I'll give the tag name. ABAP Trial _2022. In addition, I will add 2 ports, Secure Gateway port for 00 instance, and also Message Server port from ASCS instance 01. This is a must for me. Let's start. If you're curious as to why I added these ports, it's worth watching the episode on ports and firewall for SAP applications. I think if you've reached this point, it might be worth your while to review the list of previous videos and also subscribe to the channel. Also consider giving a like to this video, as it's a clear message to me that the audience expects more topics similar to this one. Besides, it supports this channel and spreading knowledge. Don't wait for later, do it now, because the container will take a while to launch, even if I use the magic trick again and speed up the time. First of all, HANA has to start for the first time, and then the application must get launched as well. Well, give a like and let's fly on with the topic. Indeed, let's have fun. You must know that I have already configured SAP Logon for the previous sandbox. Since I used Message Server, it will need more changes, but let's see it in practice. I'm opening properties of my sandbox system. As you can see, access is defined by the Logon group. Therefore, I need to provide the address of my message server. The previous one ended with 42, the new one with 44. I see a list of available groups, and that means it is possible to connect to the message server. This is a good sign. I make sure secure network communication is turned off because my sandbox does not yet support SNC. Now I can try to log in and see if it works. No, it is not. Connection refused. But please pay attention to IP address in the error message. The response is from the old sandbox. Why? Did we connect to the wrong server even when client configuration has been already updated? Let me explain. I'll open Windows hosts file to show you something. My SAP GUI connected to message server of the right system. The message server responsible for load balancing redirected me to the only instance in the system via hostname. The problem is that the Docker hostname of the old and new sandbox is exactly the same. And my computer is converting this hostname to IP by an entry in the hosts file, which has not yet been corrected. So I'm correcting this now and saving. By the way, I will show one more entry, which is needed for the correct functioning of the connection through the message server, with the current configuration. It is about specifying the message server port of my system in the services file. It is here, SAP message server for system ID A4H, port 3601. If you want to know more about this topic, see the video on instance numbers. I'm logging again. This time the connection is successful, but I need to check the default password for this system in ABAP Cloud Developer Trial documentation. Okay, I found this, I'll copy it. This is a new system and there is no license uploaded yet, so it should not be possible to log on any user other than SAP star. But let's try. As expected, logon not possible due to error in license check. In this case, one solution is to log in to the SAP star user account to check the hardware key to generate a free license. As you can see, the programs compile the first time. This is natural if sgen was not run. I am running transaction S license, and again there will be some compilation. At least you can see that is the first startup of the system. Programs are not compiled in the distributed image to take up as little space as possible. Since the compilation process is quite fast, and occurs only the first time, it is not very problematic. Okay, the transaction has started. As you can see, the licenses are invalid. Therefore, I need to generate new ones. Since Cloud Developer Trial is free of charge, there is no problem at all with this. In case you're wondering, there's already a video on renewing licenses on the channel. To generate a license, I need a hardware key. SAP provides a special website for generating licenses. The licenses are valid for 3 months, but after that you can easily renew them. If you don't know the address of the site, it's easiest to just search for Mini SAP. Here it is. A 4H is a familiar system identifier, right? I need to select it and check the rest of the form below. I won't provide my data, but you can be sure that the result is a license file downloaded by the browser. Here it is, I'll need it. Sometimes it is necessary to remove licenses first before installing new ones. This can be done by delete license. To install a new license file, select Install License. Of course, you need a license file which I select from my local disk. Confirmation is needed. Licenses have been installed successfully. Now all is green. This means that I can log into the system using a regular user. To do this, I'll copy the password from the website one more time. My user is not yet created, but I will use the developer account. I am logged in. I will go to S-Trust transaction because I would like to now import PSE from the previous system. That way, my new sandbox will identify itself exactly the same as the previous one. Normally, it is not recommended that 2 systems use the same certificate. But for me, this is a kind of migration to the new version, and the old sandbox will no longer be used. As you can see, SNC certificate is a default one, distributed with the SAP Docker image. I'm trying to import the saved one, but operation is not allowed in display mode, so I need to change this to edit. Now I'm choosing my old PSE file. I need to allow access as always. Imparted. Now I should save this as the SNC PSE. This is the second one. Another compilation. This is a serious thing, so I need to confirm that I know what I'm doing. Done and saved. The subject chain and trusted list were imported. The next step is probably worth setting up my user. Since I will be enabling SSO, it would be good to add my SNC string right away. I have saved it in a file. Here it is, I'll copy it. Now let's go to SU01 transaction. As you can see, all this is simple, but it takes some time. I'm creating my user account. These compilations are tiring, but next time they will not happen again. The first time, you just have to wait a bit. On small systems with 1 user, this is much better than running sgen. Here, I have to enter my basic data. In the SNC tab, I enter my SNC string copied earlier from a file. I see that the system says that CN is not defined, but maybe it is because SNC is not active in the system. I will come back to this later. I will, however, mark the possibility of logging in with a password. I still need to add permissions. SAP all, of course, because it's a sandbox, although it's usually not recommended. Saving my user. I see that password is missing, so I'll generate one. In fact, I won't use that, so I could just deactivate it, but it doesn't matter. Here is my password. I won't even copy this. Saving once more, and we see one more compilation process. This time the user has been saved successfully. Now there is one last step left to configure SSO. I could do it using the SNC wizard transaction, but I'll take a shortcut, because there are really only a few profile parameters missing. On the other hand, if you would like to understand how SNC works in my system and know how to configure it step by step, be sure to check out my channel. This video is a walkthrough tutorial, very detailed and comprehensive. But let's go back to the server of my previous sandbox where I saved the profile files. I'm logging using SSH. As you may remember, I saved the profiles in TMP profile. I'm interested in default.pfl because there I expect SSO-related parameters. Yes, here they are. I need to copy them because I want to paste them into the default profile of my new system. As you may guess, the differences between the versions are not very big, so it should be fine. Now I'm logging to the MiniPC hosting the new sandbox. This time, however, I need to get into my sandbox system inside the Docker. That's why I'm logging by executing the bash command interactively inside this container. I'm logged in as a root, so I want to switch to my SAP admin account. Here I have the normal directory structure of the SAP system. So I go where I expect to find profiles. Yes, this is my profile directory. I have a default PFL here. Let's edit this. I'll paste the parameters at the end. Pasted, but I see that 2 parameters are doubled. I'll delete them, and done. Now I can save and restart the system. I will use the SAP control command for this. Of course, there is already a video on the channel about this, so if you don't know how it works, be sure to watch. I was disconnected, which means that the command worked and the system just stops. This process will take a while, of course, but at least we have time to consider why install Cloud Developer Trial 2022 at all. It's a great system to experiment with. If you're a developer and don't mind the lack of business modules, then it will definitely be great for you. If you are a basis administrator, you will also be able to do a huge amount of experimentation. Take a look at the videos on my channel. A great many of them were created just on the basis of my little MiniPC sandbox. The restart has ended. I can try logging into the system and see if SSO is working. First, I need to correct my client settings and activate SNC. Without this, SSO cannot work. The next step will be to try to log in. I remember there was a problem with my SNC string. Yes, indeed, no users exists with this SNC name. Let's log on to developer once more. But I need to copy password. Here it is, copied. I'm logged in. Let's go to SU01 to see SAPDelph's SNC string. Canonical name not defined. Let's try to edit anything to see if CN will be accepted. No, still an error. Unable to determine the canonical SNC name. Let's change this back. Interesting. This time there is no error. Let's save it. Let me double check if this is still green, just in case. Yes, it is. In that case, I guess I can log off. A retry to log in should already be successful with SSO. Yes. Success. The system asked me to change my password because someone else set it. But I won't use the password, so I can just delete it. In this case, I logged in without giving the password. So I can consider the migration of my sandbox from ABAP Platform Trial 1909 to ABAP Cloud Developer Trial successful. It wasn't too complicated, nor did it take long, was it? I hope you enjoyed the episode. If so, please like and feel free to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. May all your migrations be as effortless and instant as this one. See you next time.